Well, hello to my beautiful YouTube subscribers. It's been a while since I've made a video. I have been very busy. I made a decision after working a job that makes me miserable for the past 10 years. I've been working for my dad in litigated truck, bus, and forklift accidents because prior to my whole trans journey, I ran a trucking business myself. And I've owned numerous big rig trucks over the years, and I've been absolutely fascinated with anything that has an engine in it for my whole life, despite my trans identity, or what I thought was a trans identity, was just a self-hatred I was living with. And I allowed myself to fall into doing this job that made me miserable for the past 10 years because it was safe. It was something I could do to provide for my family. I could do it from anywhere I had internet access and a computer, but it was not the kind of work I like to do. It was work that I was good at because of my experience in running my own trucking businesses and basically being a truck safety expert. I could compile these long reports for law firms that would state who was at fault in a truck collision and things, but I was constantly exposed to negativity, constantly exposed to death and people dying and videos of people dying and things that I would have to watch as part of figuring out what happened in the collision, and it was not something I enjoyed doing. What I enjoy doing is working on vehicles and welding and fabrication and things. So, but that was something that didn't really align with my female identity, my being trans. It was something I stepped away from. But anyway, I've been really busy setting up a new business. Mobile welding business. I bought this truck behind me that has a big crane on it so that I can lift heavy things and lift engines and transmissions out of vehicles. This Jeep I'm in the process of fully restoring and going to be putting a diesel engine in it because that's my thing, is diesel engines. I love all things diesel. Hence the reason I've owned so many big rig diesel trucks and things. So that's what I've been up to lately, and I haven't been making any of these videos talking about my D-trans experience because, to be honest, focusing on it a lot keeps reminding me of where I was, and I don't want to dwell on where I was. I want to dwell on the present and moving forward with my life and being my man self that I've always been, but that my traumas and experiences cause me to deviate from because of self-hatred. I have had a few requests from those watching my videos. Some of you know about my experience with my weight, that at my heaviest I was 334 pounds.
Hi there, my name's Laurel.
And I used to have videos on my YouTube. I've made them private now just because I wanted to make this channel more about my D-trans experience and not so much about my weight. But I've had a few of my viewers point out the similarity between eating disorders and weight gain and being trans. And I wanted to talk about those similarities. First of all, one of the things I've talked a lot about and I've written a lot about is the fact that at the core of every trans person is a level of self-hatred. It's an inability to love yourself for exactly who you are. A desire to become something different, that your experiences and perspectives have caused you to identify as a more ideal way of being, right? Something in your life, if you're trans, something in your life caused you to develop the idea in your mind that being a female would be better. It is not that you literally have a female mind. See, this whole trans term, it was invented. It's not real. There does not exist the possibility for your body to be one sex and your mind to be another. That doesn't exist. The medical system wants to tell you that this is possible, and when they tell certain young, vulnerable individuals this concept, some of us have a tendency to grasp onto that and say, oh, that's what I'm dealing with. That's why I feel like I'm a girl, because it's literally possible for me to have a female brain or soul in a male body. But it's not. That is not possible. Your biology and genetics are what is real. You are born either male or female. And of course we've talked at length about the whole intersex condition and things where your actual genetics are different. But as far as the typical trans-identifying person goes, what it is an idea in the mind, an idea that deviates from the body, that deviates from the biology of which your body is. And this idea is formed in experience. Now, the same thing happens with things like your weight. I started putting on a lot of weight when I was about 12 years old, probably more like 10 or 11. But it was when I was 12 that I really realized, dude, I'm getting kind of heavy, pudgy here. By the time I was 16, my 16-year-old driver's license, which I still have somewhere, says I was 260 pounds at 16 years old. And then by the time I was 19 and went on the 2-year mission for the Mormon church, I was 280 pounds. And my bishop in the church actually almost discouraged me from going because he thought I would really struggle on my mission being so heavy. He either discouraged me from going or suggested that I lose a whole bunch of weight before I go, because he said he didn't see how I could be a successful missionary if I was that heavy and that I had such a hard time talking to people. When little did he know that mission was actually one of the best things that ever happened to me as far as learning how to talk to people. It was while I was on that mission that I finally learned how to actually converse with people more like a normal person, because I couldn't before that. But when I was 10 or 11, I developed a lot of self-hatred. I did not like myself. My environment programmed me to believe that I wasn't good enough the way I was, that I had to be something different. But I couldn't be something different at that time. I felt trapped in who I was. I felt a victim to my body, a victim to what my life had given me at that point. That was tragic. And as a result, I began eating my feelings away. You know, some of us identify that certain foods make us feel better, or they distract us from the feelings or pain that we're suffering. And that was what happened to me. I realized anytime I was eating, it took away this empty feeling. I identified it as hunger, but it wasn't actually hunger. It was an empty feeling I felt inside about myself that I was misidentifying as hunger in a way and feeding it. And so I ate way too much, way too frequently, and gained a lot of weight. I, of course, this whole time, as I've talked before, as I was growing up, was also struggling with this feeling that I was somehow in the wrong body, that I was really meant to be a girl, and I would pray every night that I could wake up the next day as a girl in the right body and go on living my life happily as I was supposed to, as the female I was meant to be. And so I had those feelings, those thoughts constantly going on that, of course, drove my need to eat and eat my feelings away and make myself feel better about myself. And it was all driven, of course, by this self-hatred. People who struggle with eating disorders, there are many different eating disorders, either eating too much or not eating enough, bulimia, anorexia. It's all about self-hatred. Every one of these eating disorders. There is an inability to just truly love yourself the way you are. You look down at yourself and you hate yourself. You look in the mirror and you think, if only my nose looked different. If only my face was shaped different. There's a reason the whole plastic surgery industry is so huge. Because it's not only about gender identity. I happen to go down a gender identity path and get surgery, plastic surgery to my body to make my body align with what I had identified as the ideal self. As many of you know, I also had weight loss surgery. Again, it was I convinced myself that I'd be healthier and able to live a happier life if I wasn't so heavy. But what was at the core of that was an inability to love myself the way I was. That was the whole reason I ate to begin with so much and gained so much weight. Because I just hated myself. I hated my body. I want to talk a little more about the being a victim to your body, a victim to your life. Because so many people live in this state, live in a state of victimhood. Either feeling trapped in your own body, that's what being trans is feeling trapped in your body. And then when you're told that such thing as being trans is a possibility, this word is an invention. It was invented. It's not real. It's when a person hears that there's a possibility that I could possibly be in the wrong body, that then they attach to that and say, oh, now I got to do something about that. But the reality is you're in the body you're in because of biology. That's the way it is. Your body forms either male or female. And it is only the mind that grabs onto an idea and tries to convince you that something else is possible, that it's even possible to have a different mind than your body. And this is what happened to me. I felt like a victim in my body. I felt like my body was defying who I really was because I had developed this identity in my mind that differed from my body. It wasn't real. But then when I was searching the internet and I found this term trans and transgender and learned what that meant, and I was told that it meant that you could actually have a different mind or soul than your body, and that there was things you could do about that, of course I thought, this is how I can be happy. This is how I can live the life I want to live. But it was only experiences and circumstances of my life and perspectives gained through those experiences that caused me to develop the belief that I was female. It was only a delusion. It was a thought, a feeling, just like any other self-hatred. If you don't like your nose, it's not because there's anything wrong with your nose, actually. It's only because you have identified that someone else's nose looks better and you want a different one. If you don't like your breasts, they're not big enough for you. It's not because they're not really big enough. It's because you've identified that, oh, if I had bigger breasts, I would feel better about myself. But it's not real. That's an idea that was formed in your mind through experience. Any type of body dysmorphia, body self-hatred, was developed through experience. It's a part of your mind, your thought process. It's not actually a part of you and who you are. You have to separate from your thoughts, from the thoughts that formed in experience, and return to love, self-love. Self-love is where it's at. You cannot be content in life unless you can learn to love yourself and love who you are. You have to love who you are, and that's the only way you'll truly be happy. Otherwise, you'll feel like a constant victim to your life, a constant victim in your body, and constantly trying to seek that next thing that's going to cause you to align with what you've identified as being better. It comes down to even things like the car you drive. You might obsess about getting this new car because if I had that car, I would be happier. I'd feel better about myself. I'd drive in confidence and it would just make me happy. But again, that is an idea that formed in your mind through experience. The car you have is getting you from A to B just fine. Of course, if it's breaking down all the time, then you have reason to want one that's more reliable. But a lot of people, that's not what it's about. They want the status of the nice car, the Lamborghini that they wish they had just because that makes them feel successful. But again, that's a feeling. What is success? Success is learning to be happy and love yourself in exactly where you are, the body you're in. And that brings up another thing I wanted to talk about. When I was 14 years old, I started helicopter flight training. And one of my very first flight instructors, his name was Cecil King. He was a really fun black guy, and he and I had a lot of fun in the helicopter. But he would always ask me, "Are you having fun? Because if you're not having fun, it's not worth doing." And at the time, as a 14-year-old, that really stuck with me. I really thought about that. Like, what does he really mean about that? If you're not having fun, it's not worth doing. And because I thought, my ego, of course, wanted to fight that and wanted to say, but there's a lot of things we have to do in life that aren't fun. Cleaning the house isn't necessarily fun, but I have to do it. So are you telling me it's not worth doing because it's not fun? But what I did with that concept is over time I realized what he really meant, or the way to really adapt that in one's life, is to learn to have fun no matter what you're doing. No matter what the task is, learn to find enjoyment in it, and your life will greatly improve. So like, things like, even one of my most despised tasks ever is cleaning up dog poop from the yard, or if the dog made a mess in the house. Brings up that vomit response, because dog poop is absolutely disgusting, and cleaning it up is one of the most unfun experiences you could possibly have. But I had a moment when I was in my teenage years having that concept going through my head. If you're not having fun, it's not worth doing. And then I took that and I adapted it and I said, okay, I'm going to learn to find enjoyment no matter what I do. And so I changed my perspective on that. I changed my perspective on cleaning up dog poop. I said, I'm going to find some way to enjoy this. Find some way to make it funny, fun, humorous, so that it changes the experience for me. So rather than dreading my life and dreading the task, I can enjoy myself in the moment. And that's part of being present. Being present is key in so much. Learning to be present. If you've ever read the book by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, he teaches you this concept, the concept of being present. When you're present, I live in Colorado Springs, and Colorado Springs, Colorado is surrounded by military bases. The Air Force is here, and they are constantly flying their military jets around. And while I appreciate all things with engines, and I appreciate aircraft more than many do, having them constantly buzzing around, making noise, gets old after a while. Especially when you're trying to make a video and it's impossible to find quiet. Even out in the woods, the jets are flying overhead and making noise. Learning to be present in every way, right? Learning to be present in your own body. If you're present in your own body and you just learn to love yourself for who you are, you're not going to be in your mind thinking about what you wish you were, or thinking about why you're not happy to be who you are. Being present is key. Being present in your marriage with your spouse. Not allowing your thoughts to to go, what did she mean when she said that? What does she want from me? That's thoughts in your head. If you're just present, you're going to just love her and be there for her and be present and just enjoy yourself. And then the concept of if you're not having fun, it's not worth doing, which again doesn't mean that the things that aren't fun aren't worth doing. What you should take that concept to mean and adapt in your life is that you need to be present and find enjoyment in everything you do. No matter what it is, and your life will greatly improve, rather than your life being filled of moments of you feeling like a victim and feeling unhappy to be doing the tasks you're doing. You'll just enjoy it. You'll just feel happier doing even the things that you dread doing. I've had to do that for the past 10 years in my job in order to keep myself doing it, being constantly exposed to negativity and death and all these things that were a part of my compiling these reports for law firms and summarizing deposition transcripts. I, over the past 10 years, have read through literally thousands of deposition transcripts, I'm sure. Thousands and thousands of pages of people talking about their life, their marriage, their sex life, because all of these things the attorneys ask about. And as part of my job in trying to gather from the deposition transcript the information about the collision that happened and how the collision happened and who was at fault and why they were at fault and why the truck driver shouldn't have done what he did. See, I've been put in the position for the past 10 years. I was a truck driver myself, and so frequently I would find myself having to compile a report saying that this truck driver should not have done what he did in this collision when I would have done the exact same thing. Of course, there are also many times where the truck driver was just plain stupid and did something absolutely ridiculous and somebody died because of it. And anyway, in order to make myself keep doing that job, I had to keep myself in a state of gratitude that I had the job. If you keep yourself in a state of gratitude and presence at all times, you can get through hard things. You can do things that aren't necessarily fun or enjoyable. You can find enjoyment in it. And the same goes with your body. If you struggle with body dysmorphia, body dysphoria, a feeling of hatred towards your own body, towards your own self, towards the way you look, towards the way you are, if you maintain those negative feelings, you are going to continue feeling like a victim to your life and a victim to your body. And that's not a fun thing to do. That's not a fun way to be. We all want to enjoy life, but we constantly identify ways that we're not enjoying life. We identify things about our body that we don't like. And as a trans person, we took that to extremes, to actually have surgery to change the body to match an idea that formed in the mind over the course of our life. And it's so hard for me to watch other trans people. Oh great, now there's four jets flying in formation, trying to be present right now as the afterburners are screwing up the audio in my video. So yeah, as a trans person, I took self-hatred of my body and the inability to be present and going into my head and paying attention to my thoughts way too much and allowing my thoughts to take precedence over my biology. That is what happened to me, and that is what happens to every trans person. There is a sense of self-hatred. Many trans people want to tell me that I wasn't really trans. I would respond to that by telling you, you're not really trans either. Trans is something that was made up. It was a concept that was given to you as an answer to your lack of happiness and lack of love for yourself. It was given to you as an idea which attached to the ideas you already had formed in your mind over the course of your life that made you not love yourself the way you were. See, it is experience that causes you to develop the idea that you should be a female if you were born male, or a male if you were born female. If you listen to enough detransitioners, you'll hear that we all went through the same thing, where we fully thought that that was what was right, that was the reality, that not only did I just not hate myself, but it was that I literally felt like I was a female trapped in the male body. And that's what people think is transgender. Transgender means when you feel like you are a different sex than what your body is. But it's an idea formed in experience. It's not real. The biology is real. If a person who is trans, had they grown up in a totally different environment, they would not have developed that belief. And that's what you need to keep in mind. If you are trans and you feel honestly like you are the wrong gender or the wrong sex in your body, if you feel like you're trapped in the wrong body with the wrong parts, if you take yourself and put yourself in a different household, a different childhood growing up, you would have developed a completely different perspective about yourself. Your parents parenting you would have caused you to love yourself, perhaps, rather than hate yourself. Your environment is what caused you to develop this belief. It's not something you're born with. It's something that develops early in childhood through perspective. In keeping that in mind, put yourself in an entirely different childhood, an entirely different environment growing up, and recognize that it would have caused you to develop different perspectives. You would have grown up with a completely different idea of what was good. And as such, you should recognize that if you are feeling this way, it is only from your experiences and shouldn't necessarily be healed through surgery or hormones. It should be healed through learning to love yourself. If you could learn to love yourself, I know there are many trans people who don't want to actually go through the surgery, but they feel like it's necessary in order to be able to love themselves. Well, imagine if you could learn to love yourself exactly the way you are and not have to go through all of that, not have to damage your body, not have to screw up your body's ability to create its own hormones like I did. I removed from my body willingly. I signed a paper giving Denver Health in Denver, Colorado, the permission to surgically remove parts of my body that created the hormones that I need in order to function as a human. My body formed male, and therefore my body depends on those male hormones in order to function properly. But I had those parts removed, so my biologically male body cannot function properly without having those hormones, and now I have to supplement my body with those hormones for the rest of my life. Imagine if you didn't have to go through that. So I think that drawing the similarity between all forms of body dysphoria, dysmorphia, drawing the similarities between that and being trans will help more people understand that being trans is simply just a form of self-hatred that developed in early childhood. Trans people, and myself included, wanted to claim that no, I really am female inside the wrong body, because that's what it feels like. That's what the ideas in the mind form. I honestly thought that I had a female brain and a female soul, regardless of the fact that I was so into trucks and aircraft and all these manly things. And then people want to tell me, but women can be into those things too. That doesn't necessarily mean that you weren't trans. My biology means I wasn't trans. The fact that my body formed male means I wasn't trans. Okay, because trans does not exist. It is an idea formed in the mind, and it is a lie. It is a made-up word. Transgender is a made-up word to try to find an answer for this condition of identifying with being the opposite sex in the wrong body. It is a made-up word. It is something that, because being trans is something that was made up in the mind to begin with, they had to come up with a word for it. Those of you who are familiar with psychology, some of you might be therapists yourself, have training in psychology and therapy, you know about the DSM. It is a book, a very thick book that is filled with lies, filled with made-up terms to try to find answers for conditions that people are dealing with. Every one of these conditions are because of experience and programming. They're ideas that are formed in experience over the course of your life. They're not real conditions. It's not like a person is born with schizophrenia, for example. You are not born predispositioned to have any of these conditions that are made up in this book, the DSM. All of it is an answer to a condition in order to prescribe you medication and to prescribe you a treatment. That's the only purpose of the DSM, is to give a reason to give you treatment for something. But most of the treatments are out there. They are not the correct treatments. The correct treatment for every condition is to learn to love yourself the way you are. When you consider that most conditions, supposed conditions that people have, are actually made up as a means of the medical system having a reason to prescribe you medication or certain therapies that you don't actually need, consider how that relates to any other experience you have in life, any other situation of self-hatred. If there's anything you hate about yourself, you think you're too fat, it's not actually likely because you're too fat. I mean, some people are very overweight because of experiences that program them to believe they needed to eat more. In my initial weight loss surgery video, I made an introduction weight loss surgery video, and I'm standing there 334 pounds in front of the camera, and I literally say to the camera, I don't know why I'm so heavy. I don't actually eat that much.
I am 28 years old, 334 pounds currently. I really don't eat that much, which is what bugs me. It really bothers me that I don't even eat that much. It's not like I could really cut back on what I'm eating and have a hope of losing weight.
I was in such denial. I used to claim it was genetics. I said, I have fat parents, that's why. It's genetics that made me this fat. And so many overweight people say that. I'm just genetically predispositioned to be fat. No, you're not. That's not a thing. That is not a thing. If your parents are fat, you saw that, they ate a certain way, they programmed you to eat a certain way, and you became fat. It's not that you're fat because your parents were genetically fat. Like me, I did not gain all that weight because I was genetically predispositioned to gain that weight. I gained that weight because I was mentally predispositioned. I was mentally prepared to gain that much weight. I grew up in an environment that caused me to hate myself, to think that I should be something different than I was. I developed this trans identity in my childhood. I watched how my parents ate. My parents showed me the example of how they ate. They were very overweight, and I became very overweight as a result. Had I grown up with thin parents, and had I grown up with self-love and not so much self-hatred and not all these reasons to overeat so much, I would not have got so fat. This concept of believing that you're predispositioned to be fat, that causes you to be a victim to yourself. You think there's no hope. Well, might as well not even bother exercising, might as well not even bother trying to eat healthier because I'm just genetically predispositioned to this, so carry on and feel like a victim to myself. And that's what so many people do with so many different conditions, no matter what it is. Like I keep mentioning the nose because that's such a common thing for people to have nose jobs because they don't like their nose. They think they'll be happier or look better. The only reason when you look in the mirror and you don't like yourself is because you developed an idea. You developed an idea. You scrolled Instagram and saw all these other pretty people's noses, and you identified in your mind, not in your actual body, that you would be better off with a different nose. It's fascinating for me to understand this now on such a deep level, having gone through this experience of being trans and having the surgery and everything, and all of my psychedelic experiences that have caused my mind to just expand in ways that I understand the human condition and understand what causes people to do the things they do and why people hate themselves so much, why people are overweight, why people are underweight, why people hate themselves, why people want all these plastic surgeries to make themselves look and feel better about themselves. It's all in the mind. Why do we allow, in our current culture and society, why do we allow the mind to take precedence over the biology of the body? It's ludicrous, and it's all based in self-hatred. Every bit of it. Every trans person hates themselves. And they think that they love themselves more by living as the female they are, but they're defying their own biology, and eventually that's going to catch up to you. You might think that I'm going to be happy for the rest of my life like this, but the fact is it was all rooted in self-hatred to begin with. That self-hatred is still in you, and it will always be in you until you heal that. But the problem is, when you heal that and when you find your ability to love yourself, you're going to recognize you made a huge mistake. You're going to recognize, oh, wait, it was only a hatred of myself that caused me to grasp onto this belief I developed in childhood that I was somehow an opposite sex in my body. And then you took that and you attached it to the self-hatred, and it caused you to transition and to think that you're going to be happier living as the opposite sex. And it's just wild. It's wild that we live in a world and a society where we give the mind, a mind which is programmed through experience and time and environment, and we give that more weight. We say, okay, this person says they're female in a male body, so let's change their body to match the mind, rather than trying to heal the mind and the reasons that they hate themselves so that they don't have to make those physical changes to the body. And that's what I'm trying to do with I made this entire course on self-love to teach people the things that I've learned as I went through my own journey of how to love myself. I created this course that basically lays out everything that I've learned in the process of how to love myself to help other people learn how to love themselves as well. And when you learn how to love yourself, all of a sudden, all the surgeries you desire, they just go out the window. Why would I want to have surgery? Why would I want a surgeon to take a knife and cut parts off my body? Your ego wants to convince yourself that it's because you love yourself and you want this thing changed on your body, and that then you'd love yourself more. No. That's the ego. That's ideas that formed in your mind. And you might think, well, yeah, that the ideas in my mind is what is real, and that's what's going to make me happy. But when you have to make physical changes to your body based on the ideas in your mind, how is that good? How is that right? It's not. You need to learn to love yourself exactly as you are. Love your body exactly the way it is, and you will be so much happier. If you're not having fun doing it, it's not worth doing. Again, that doesn't mean that things that aren't necessarily fun to do aren't worth doing. It means find enjoyment in every moment. Be present in every moment, no matter what you're doing, no matter how sucky the job or task is that you're doing. Find something to enjoy about it, and all of a sudden your life will improve greatly. All of a sudden you'll just feel happier about yourself. You'll look in the mirror, and instead of looking in the mirror and not able to look at yourself because you hate things about yourself, you'll look in the mirror and you'll have gratitude and appreciation for the body that you have. The fact that your body functions, that it functions good. If it doesn't function good, it's probably because you're not taking care of it properly because you hate yourself. If your organs are shutting down, it's because you hated yourself so much that you ate the wrong things, and now your body's responding to that. And you might argue me, you might say, no, my body just doesn't function properly. But if you really analyze how you've treated your body over the years, you might realize that it was actually caused by your own self-hatred and your inability to truly take care of yourself the way you should, to eat the things you should and exercise the way you should. I thought there was no purpose in exercising or eating better because I was just genetically predispositioned to be fat. That was just my belief. It was a belief. Just like being trans is a belief and the word transgender is a lie, it was made up to find an answer, just like most of the diagnoses in the DSM are made up. They're made up to find an answer to a condition that people can't find an answer for. Our various psychoses and beliefs in our mind are always formed in experience. We are born a perfectly functioning being unless our mother hated herself and was consuming things based on that self-hatred that then caused us to form certain birth defects. That happens. Again, it's from self-hatred. Everything is from self-hatred. So the answer is to learn to love yourself. No matter who you are, where you are, what you're struggling with, learn to love yourself, and all of a sudden you will love your body, you will love who you are, and you'll live a much happier, better life. I love you all. Thanks for watching. I'll probably post more videos more frequently, but I am going to be very busy with this new job this new business I'm starting. I've been doing this kind of work my whole life, working on vehicles, trucks, big rigs, anything with an engine in it. Love mechanics, love welding, and I'm going to be doing a lot more of it. I created another YouTube channel where I'm going to post those ventures, where I'm putting diesel engines in vehicles that did not originally have diesel engines. It's just something that really fascinates me. Diesel engines last longer, they get better fuel mileage. It's just something fun that can also make me money. And so I thank you all for watching. I appreciate your support. And please share my videos if you feel like someone will benefit from hearing my words, my wisdom that I've gained through this whole experience. I feel like I have a lot to share, a very profound understanding of the importance of self-love and how to integrate that into your life. I love you all.